Penny almost spilled her coffee as she placed her cup back on the table. She had just finished watching a story of a person, Brenda, who was in her 60s, who had been evicted from her apartment because she had missed 2 rent payments and not fulfilled a key part of her lease. She was forced to live on the street with her dog Zappo. On her second night of homelessness, someone stole Zappo and the little dog food she had been able to bring with her. Soon, Brenda sunk into a deep depression, which lasted for several weeks. One night, a volunteer with a Catholic group that brought food to her street asked Brenda if she would like help in getting off the street, and Brenda, not sure if that was even possible, weakly said yes. The volunteer helped Brenda gather up her few belongings and took her to her shelter, where she was able to clean up, get a hot meal, and sleep on a clean cot. The next day, a social worker made her rounds interviewing new arrivals. As the social worker listened to Brenda's story of how she became homeless, 2 things became apparent. Brenda had violated her lease because she had difficulty in reading and understanding it. She had missed payments because she couldn't keep track of time. Both things were characteristic of having dyslexia. The social worker asked Brenda if she had ever been helped with her dyslexia. Brenda cocked her head and looked at the social worker. Dyslexia? What's that? The social worker explained the effects of dyslexia and how it may have contributed to the problems with her lease. No one ever told me I had dyslexia. I always thought I was just stupid, Brenda replied. Well, maybe we can get you help with that. Let me make some calls and I will see you tomorrow. Brenda said thanks, but didn't expect anything would happen. The next day, the social worker returned. Brenda, I found you a spot in our low-income housing. We will get you into it as soon as tomorrow. And I found a retired teacher, Bill, who will help you with your dyslexia. If you agree, I'll finish up the paperwork. For the first time in weeks, a light was shining through Brenda's depression. Maybe, just maybe, I can get back on my feet again. The reason Penny had almost spilled her coffee was that Brenda's dyslexia sounded a lot like what Penny had experienced her entire life. Penny looked out the kitchen window and thought about all the times she had thought she was stupid when she was a little girl. She had isolated herself from friends and classmates because her problems with reading brought on a lot of jeers and bullying. Her consistent confusing of directions, such as left and right, had generated a lot of ridicule, and she'd always had trouble keeping appointments because she didn't understand or care about time. Penny thought, I'm lucky I'm not homeless yet, but what if this dyslexia thing ruined my life like it has ruined Brenda's? Penny decided to talk to the teacher who lived next door and see if she knew of anyone who could verify that Penny had dyslexia and help her deal with it. Penny drank the last of her coffee and she rewatched the end of Brenda's story. Brenda had worked with a dyslexia coach for several months and was doing much better, but there was one big surprise. The social worker who had helped her get into low-income housing had found Zappo. The dog was found roaming the streets a few miles from where he was stolen. One afternoon, Brenda opened the door to her apartment and there was the social worker and her dog. Zappo almost knocked her over as he jumped into her arms. Joy had returned to Brenda's life. Both Brenda and Penny are part of the millions of people who have unnecessarily lived lives in shame, feeling the effects of dyslexia without knowing they have it. There are generations of people throughout the world that have suffered great emotional pain that could have been reduced or prevented altogether if their dyslexia had been dealt with. Maybe we should take a hard look at helping adults find out if they have dyslexia and help them overcome not just reading problems, but all of the components of their condition.